Hi everyone, welcome to our Claris FileMaker training course on how to build a custom CRM in 30 days. This training is designed primarily for beginners or those of you who need kind of a refresher with the Claris FileMaker platform. Over the course of 30 days, we're going to spend about an hour each day covering topics from the very basics of the Claris FileMaker platform in terms of the tools, the products, deployment, security, all those things you need to know about as you build a custom application. So keep in mind that towards the beginning of the training, the topics are more basic in nature. And as we get towards the end of the training, they're somewhat more advanced. I would say probably intermediate level topics. Now keep in mind this special part of this training is that while we're not only talking about the FileMaker platform, we're talking how you can rapidly customize an existing free CRM that you can download today. It's unlocked. So taking that CRM and customizing it to your organization's particular needs. Now, a couple important links to keep in mind. One is that if you need a copy of FM Starting Point, the free unlocked CRM, visit fmstartingpoint.com and press the button. And then our system will shoot you an email with the current links to that CRM. If you're looking for additional FileMaker training, visit fmtraining.tv and press the bundles button, and that will allow you to get more of this highly animated and somewhat energetic training material to help you through the learning process with the Claris FileMaker platform. Lastly, if you have questions about the FileMaker platform or you're looking for some additional help, maybe some one-on-one coaching help, feel free to email us at support@rcconsulting.com. So today's live stream is going to be targeted primarily towards people who are coming to the FileMaker platform, but they have a background in SQL. Maybe not SQL ninjas, maybe just some level of SQL. So if Ruben is here, we're going to want Ruben to chime in too as much as he can. Anyone else? And Ruben's SQL/Oracle, which is its kind of own like animal, but the idea is that you already have some sort of database experience somehow, and you've already learned database stuff, but you learned it with another platform. So you're trying to adapt your thinking to the FileMaker way. So what we're going to do is I have a bunch of questions that we're going to jump in here in a second. And as I answer the questions, I'm going to give you an answer. I might pontificate a little bit upon the answer, and then I'm going to give you the reference material as we answer Mike's questions. And I can't pronounce Mike's last name. I'm just going to call it Mike T. T as in Tango, Mike T. This is him over here. If one of you want to try to pronounce that, that's fine. I can't because I'm not any sort of real linguist. So I asked for topics and questions today. And what we did is Mike is from this SQL world, and he's going to be yelling at me as we go, right? And so if I answer a question or it's incomplete, et cetera, then Mike is going to say something, whatever to me, and that'll be good. So Margaret, what's our status? Are we good on, this is your captain speaking. I gave it the gas and I pulled back on the stick. Could someone look out the windows and see if we're flying?
We are indeed flying. As far as I'm aware, there is no crashing occurring. We have taken off. We have a semi-full gas tank and
a semi-full gas tank. That's better than no gas at all. Over here, we have the questions that was dropped in Slack for me. This is from Mike. Once again, Mike T. He says I've come from the world of Microsoft SQL. He's an intermediate level developer. Okay, which is cool. I'm not here anyone to talk down to you or up to you, whatever. If it's today's your first day with FileMaker, welcome to FileMaker. Okay, it's awesome. What we're trying to do is educate people kind of at the beginning and intermediate level. That's mostly what I personally do. We have other presenters who come in, like Nick, who will be coming in the middle end of next week, or was it next week, Margaret? No, 2 weeks. He will be in starting his run. Nick will be back, and Nick always starts off basic, but the guy goes super crazy advanced rapidly. So if you feel like if your life is without meaning and you feel like ending it all, right? Don't do that. Just wait for Nick to show up, and your life will be fully and complete with awesome FileMaker goodness in 2 weeks. We'll have that. So first question from Mike says, I'm from FileMaker World. I'm still learning about relationships, etc. And so what I've got is a couple people that are here to help. Margaret, you're going to be collaborating with the two. So the two folks that do video editing for me, essentially more or less full-time people, are here. They're not editing video right now. They're here to help us find videos in our inventory. We have over 6,000 videos in my inventory, and we're going to find the videos for you, okay? Some of them might be paid videos, but some of them will be free. I need to understand the FileMaker relationship graph. If you are a SQL person, you're familiar with the idea of what a view is. A view. Okay. The FileMaker relationship graph is a combination of an ERD and a view, is really what it kind of is. And so when you are, say, I'm over here in this database called Lemur Litter, and I go, and I have not pre-vetted this. I have no idea what's going to happen here. It might be really ugly. It probably is ugly. Manage database. What am I going to see? Relationships. Yeah, this is a spider mess, but it's a fairly small file, so it's not too bad. So when you build a form, which is a layout, a form is a layout. When you build that, you attach that form, that layout, to a table occurrence. A table occurrence right here is a view. In our paid training video course, we have little Lego people, Lego man. If you're standing right there as a Lego person, what you can see is what is connected with the little wires. Okay, and so the wires are a little over here, they're little relationships. So that's kind of that ERD kind of idea. But like if I look here, like I'm here and I see down here, I can see to this table through this relationship, whatever that is. There are no circular references. So in the world of FileMaker, this is a table occurrence. It's an occurrence of a table, which would imply that the table can be on the screen more than once, right? In an ERD, a table is only on the graph one time ever. So it's kind of an ERD, but it's mixed with a view. Does that make sense? So once again, we're going to need Mike to bob his head up and down and make sure that that makes sense. So for the video guys, Mike says indeed, which is great. So Mike, part of me, I'm answering this for you, but I'm trying to answer this generically for all the other SQL people. I know Ruben doesn't have a question. If Ruben, you have a clarification along the way, maybe you could say it better than I can, then feel free to throw that in there. What is an ERD? So Lonnie is on the opposite end of Mike. So Lonnie is kind of learning this. An entity relationship diagram. I'm going to discard that. I'm going to go, this is very dangerous. When I start surfing on the internet with all the safeties off and I do searches for stuff, I don't know what we're going to get. This is a typical ERD right here if I pop this up. Okay, it doesn't matter who did this right here. There's a training here. So this is typically what you see, and this reminds me of Larry. I haven't seen Larry in a long time. I miss Larry. Larry is one of our Marines. Was having a knee rebuilt. Each of these are a table. So there is a hockey game table. So one hockey game, a sports game, is one record over here. Okay, a playoff round is over here. So a hockey game can only be on this graph one time, okay? It can only be on the graph one time. So that's what an ERD is, but it's not a view, right? A view is this idea in SQL, which I don't even know how to even demonstrate that. But a view is when you're at a specific spot, a specific form on a screen, it's the connections and relationships you can see from that position. It's a spot. So this is an ERD. It kind of looks like the FileMaker graph, but it has slightly different rules, right? In a FileMaker graph, a table could be on here more than once, right? Because they're table occurrences, right? So it's a little bit different. Once again, I don't want to confuse you, Lonnie. If you're being successful with FileMaker and you don't know what a graph is or ERD is, don't worry about it, okay? Mostly, if you're a SQL person, it's like the number one thing you learn immediately, and then you go from there, okay? But our graph in FileMaker looks a lot like this, but it's slightly different, right? If people want to know more about the graph, we did cover the anchor buoy, and we covered relationships in FileMaker. If you want to see those, you would go back to that link. Margaret will provide the link to everyone. But if I go back to the link and I go to fmtraining.tv, if you have the paid training course, you have even more videos. If you haven't spent any money on us at all and you don't value what we do, then all you're going to have is access to the free videos. You would come over here to this page right here. Nope, wrong one. You come over here to the watch past videos page, and there's a section of like 3 videos on relationships, right? introduction relationships. We talk about all these elements here. Once again, day 7, day 8, day 9. Is FileMaker robust? I'm just going to say yes, but in all fairness, for everyone in the world, the robustness, you need to know the criteria of what the robustness is. If you watch our training and or follow the rules that I provide in my training, it's extraordinarily robust and you'll never have a problem. In our training, we cover the default installation configuration of FileMaker Server. So let's talk about what robust is. I don't have the graphic right here, but we have the graphic where we have the FileMaker Server. It's up in the cloud in the world. And it's talking to all the clients. The file is on the FileMaker server. So you have a SQL server, you have some sort of database file that's on the SQL server. That SQL server takes it and it distributes that data to the clients, whatever the clients are. The clients could be a browser, it could be some sort of fat client. What we call a fat client is something like FileMaker Pro. It's an application designed to be a recipient of data from a server, right? So a browser is considered kind of a thin client. Does that make sense? Because there's not a lot of FileMaker smarts in a browser. Browsers are kind of stupid. They're considered a thin client, loosely, a loose term. A fat client, once again, just mostly refers to the amount of code under the hood. You can have a very lightweight browser. It's very small in terms of the size of the application. FileMaker itself is like 400 or 500 megabytes. It's not exactly super thin. It's not as chunky as I am, but it's kind of chunky. So the robustness idea is that you take your FileMaker file. I have local FileMaker files here. You're going to upload them to the FileMaker server. We covered this at least twice in this 30-day course already on how to upload them. Once they're on the FileMaker server, you're going to want to make sure that you have set up a number of different backups, okay, that back up to different drives. In fact, we even have a conversation coming up about how to make sure that some of the backups are encrypted to protect yourself against ransomware. I don't think we've talked about that with you folks here. If you folks remember a recent ransomware conversation, we had the one with Chris Moyer 3 days back in Thanksgiving. But have we done a ransomware one since then? If not, then say no, we need to cover that. So the idea though is that you have backups. And if the FileMaker server crashes, you never use the files that were live. So when we're running, let me just see if I can remote into, I'm going to remote into this server right here, if it'll let me. This is a Mac server. Happens to be my test server. I've logged into, I've done the credentials. I am on the FileMaker server. This is a separate piece of hardware. It's a box. It could be a Linux box, a Mac box, a Windows box, doesn't matter. In here are the databases. If I actually go onto this computer, okay, so I'm gonna be very visual with this. I'm gonna get rid of my faces right here. I'm gonna get rid of my face. I'm on the hard drive right here. I'm going to open up the hard drive. On Windows or Linux, you can do the same thing. There is a spot where the app lives. So FileMaker Server lives in the library directory because this is kind of Linux, Windows, Mac, right? And then on Windows, it would be program, C drive, programs, and then I can't remember all the little paths in there, but it's the same kind of thing. So then when you open up the FileMaker Server, you have this set of directory. You have admin, C store, data, database server, documentation, some README, some logs. Logs are what you think they are, right? Data is what we care about. If I open data, we have backups. And so not all the backups are there, but a couple of the backups will be there. You got some caches, databases. Okay, that's the critical one. Then you have these other items over here. In this folder right here on this server, so this machine, this server, this directory right here contains the live FileMaker files that are currently running, okay? And I open it up. It's personal stuff that I have, has to do with aviation, tactical security, whatever other stuff I have. I think there's a database in here for Margaret. She's working on research papers and doing some research on book stuff she's writing. I got some wife unit stuff in here. It's all good. So if the FileMaker server crashes, we should have a video where we talk about crash restoration, but we assume that the files in here are damaged. We make that assumption. We go to a backup somewhere over here on this drive of some FileMaker files that were backups that were created by FileMaker server. Say that again. Backups that are created by FileMaker server. We will take this right here. I would right click it. I would compress it, make a zip out of it, save it down here out of the way, right? Because when you crash, when you crash, you assume that they're bad. The machine comes back up. One of the things that you do on the machine is you make sure it doesn't auto start. FileMaker Server out of the box auto starts. It's the dumbest thing on the planet. I can't tell you how many times Claris has been sued over this specific item. In fact, it's secret, but it's more than once. It's dumb. And so if you go to FileMaker configuration over here on the FileMaker server, this specific server automatically open databases that are in the database folders. No. Okay, it's set for no right now because I've turned it off. When you install a FileMaker server, it's set for yes. So what happens is that server crashes. I've had a janitor plug a vacuum into the battery backup of a server that's in the wiring closet. They open the wiring closet, they find an outlet plug for their vacuum, they plug it in, the vacuum goes on, it blows out the power. You restart the server comes up. It automatically then opens the files that are in the database folder in here. You don't want them to auto open that. That's bad juju, okay? They might work, but they might be corrupted. So you always assume they're corrupted. So ours is set that the machine starts up, the files don't auto start. So then I can take the files out of here, and then I go to a backup drive, like one of my backup drives, and I grab one of the backups, hourly backups from different days and times. And I option drag that folder over here, since it was a fresh backup from whatever time I wanted. And then I tell the server, I come over here and I go into databases and I tell it I come over here and I say, open all. And then it opens all those. So I took the backup, made it live, opened all the ones that were crashed. I kind of zip them and I save them and I put them maybe in the trash can in case I need to reference something. That also means is that you're going to lose the data between the time of the crash and the last backup. That's why I back up every 30 minutes. I don't want to lose any data. Okay, so that's why we do it that way. So we've done videos on one, setting up your server, configuring it correctly, and then also emergency restoration. Okay, and so what I just did is I verbally kind of walked through emergency restoration. That's assuming that the restart fixes the problem. If the restart doesn't fix the problem, you're going to need the help of an expert. That's where you need to call your local FileMaker consultant. Just so you know, most FileMaker consultants don't know the from a hole in the ground when it comes to server. I can't tell you how many FileMaker developers come to me, and I'm not being mean. I'm not even this person anymore. They come to me and say, Richard, I'm really great at doing FileMaker development. I'm the best person ever. It's like, but if my server blows up, can I use your guys to help me out with my server? I'm like, fine, no problem. Just pay the hourly rate, my server guys. I have two of them, well, 1.5 right now. And they will take care of that. Here's the thing, is FileMaker robust? If you follow the rules of never using a crash FileMaker file, then you will never have a problem. We have literally run into IT people who are like, yeah, we're IT professionals. We know more than you do. We're badass and we're Microsoft certified. And so crash the server. And then, well, we installed it too. We installed FileMaker Server too, right? We install it, right? Because we're experts. We don't need to talk to you FileMaker consultants. We're the experts, right? Literally, I mean, it's like some serious ego going on, right? And I'm like, dude, cool, right? And then what happens is they come down the configuration. They never fix this because they never pay attention. They just do the default install. How easy is the database to be corrupted? If you don't listen to me and follow what I say, it's really easy. If you follow what I listen, realistically, your FileMaker server will crash. If you don't live a very exciting life, you could have 100 employees on a server, and you could crash once a year, every 2 years or something. Pretty rare. So rare that you're going to want to find a written checklist to remind you how to do what we just discussed. So the reality is it's really reliable. It just is. It's much, much better. It's getting better still. How does it respond to drive issues, power cuts, unexpected reboots while editing? Okay. So the FileMaker server, once again, I'm going to bring this up over here. We're using the Mac right now, but it doesn't matter. Most of the servers are Windows in our company. I'm a Mac guy, so I have my one personal server. It helps me train and be fresh and experienced with FileMaker. So I play with our tools. I play with our own tools. I eat our own dog food, right? This app is running and the Mac is running correctly. And the power goes off and the power is cut to the machine. What happens is FileMaker Server cannot close the file correctly. It cannot finish committing the records and anything that was locked, that was an edit, things like that. What FileMaker Server does, it opens the file, checks for damage, and then as it operates, it protects the files at all costs. FileMaker Server is like the Secret Service, and they're surrounding the president, protecting him. Even if he does stupid shit, the secret service is to protect him from himself, amongst other things, right? And it's just the way they are. They've been that way for hundreds of years. So the reality is that if all the Secret Service guys die magically, boom, right? Then there's nothing to protect the database. This is the Secret Service protecting your files at all costs. If this software crashes or the power is cut to it, it cannot protect the files. The files you should assume are damaged. If we're at the White House, this is your files. Your files are you are the president of the White House. The Secret Service is running, and the network is cut off. It's like bulldozing the roads around the White House. Is the president still safe inside? Yes, he is just fine. Can he go anywhere? Probably not easily, right? You're going to have to get a helicopter or drive four-wheel over the torn up road or something, right? So the network is their paths in and out. The FileMaker server expects people you're talking to be disconnected and disappear. Right in the middle of editing, like we're right in the middle of editing right now. You know, we edit, record, edit, and then I just pull the plug on the computer. The server expects to see that. It's expecting bad to happen. Okay, it expects that to happen. So it sees a disconnect. Oh, I know how to handle that. I'm going to do this and this and this. I'm going to re-release the record. The file's protected. So that's the rub. So if the power is going to the computer and the computer hardware is running, and the FileMaker server software hasn't crashed, which it doesn't do, maybe once every year or two, pretty good, then your file is totally protected. If the network around it goes down, fine. If the people connected to it are disconnected, right? Totally good. Those are expected things to happen. Does that make sense? Now, question, Margaret, go.
This may be for another session, but I have FM server running on Ubuntu, and I have loaded database to the server. I can access the database from FileMaker Pro on my Mac, but I am unable to connect to the database using FileMaker Go. What issues do I need to look at to figure this out? Is it a security access issue?
If you can access it from Pro, then the extended privileges are set correctly. We covered the other day about extended privileges. If you can access it from Pro, Go should work. If you can't access it from Go, it means that there is a network, either a software firewall or a hardware firewall that's blocking the traffic. The traffic between the server and the client that has to be open is port 5003. Period. End of statement. It's not a configurable item. It's not a negotiable item. It just is. So if you have if you control your file, like a SQL person works, or a FileMaker person is an organization, they put together their own FileMaker server at their desk. They don't tell the IT people. They start using it. It's great. The people around there can use it. If they try to access it from another building or across the internet somewhere, the IT people probably have the firewall set to block traffic on 5003. So then you have to go to the IT people and say, hey, we need you to open up port 5003 or something that, you know, is going to allow that to work. And the IT people, if you like them, if they're nice to you and you're nice to them, then they might do that for you. But if you have a very adversarial relationship, which is kind of almost the norm for a lot of organizations, then they're going to tell you to pound sand. In which case you have to figure another way around it, okay? But that's the rub. 5003 is what you need to have. That is the traffic between Pro and server and Go and server. If you're using WebDirect, that's going to use port 80 or 443 because it says browser, right? So back to questions. Is robust, crash, did that? Is there any built-in external mechanisms to check and fix potential corruption? It's an ounce of prevention is worth 28,000 pounds of repairs. That we have covered topics about doing the recovery, looking at the issues, things like that. You almost never have to do that ever unless you don't restore from the backup correctly. Okay, if you just like crash the server, restart it, and then you restart the server, and you come over here and you say, and the databases are all say they're set to not turn on automatically. You come over here and you force them on anyway. So the files that were crashed, you force them on. You say, open them up. And it says, hey, some of these files are whatever. And you open them up anyway, just open them, right? Then yeah, you might need to watch the video that we have on recovery. Auto commit. Is there a way to choose to have records not to auto commit? Why? Okay. It's an interesting question. And I'm going to read more here to make sure I understand his question. So Mike, if I get sideways here, feel free to help me out with this. While it may not be such a big deal in creating new records, although you would create an empty record by mistakenly, especially on portals, it could create issues when editing records. For example, the other day I accidentally typed in a field in our business application without realizing, only be greeting like, would you like to save the changes? Dialogue. Had it not been for the save prompt, it would have overwritten good data with rubbish. How do you handle this application? So let me give you a parallel, and some of you will be probably offended by this parallel. Okay, so let me explain to you something. Okay, I'm going to answer this question, but there's a parallel analogy here that just came to mind immediately. So one of the most common, like them or not, firearms in the world is called the Glock. Glock is made by the folks in Austria and Germany. It's the handgun that if you call the police, 9 times out of 10 they're going to show up with a Glock. Okay, so what you're asking for is a safety switch on your database, right? A little manual safety switch. The Glocks are under the impression that if you put your finger on the trigger and pull, you mean for the gun to go off. They don't have a manual safety. There is no like manual safety, which implies the idea that you might inadvertently put your finger on the trigger, right? Like some other gun, like you click in a field and type accidentally. I might just put my finger in the trigger and just pull on it, right? Because I'm not thinking about it, right? So FileMaker is a lot like a Glock. There's no specific safety on it. If you click in a field and start typing on a very basic database, it's going to assume that you're serious and you really want to do that. If you have people, so if you have people who either one, put their fingers on the triggers and just randomly pull because they think it's cool, or if they click into a field and magically just type on the database, then yeah, you need to not use these tools specifically. In the case of Glock, you get a different kind of gun with a manual safety. So that way they can just pull the trigger and nothing happens, right? The same in FileMaker, you're going to build through, you could be in a database, for example, and I'm just going to walk through this very loosely. If some of you want to see this demoed, I can have Michael come back and demo this. Let me go to a copy of Starting Point Lite. So say, for example, so this is our Glock kind of FileMaker right here. If we pull the trigger, it's going to go off. If we click in here, if I'm going to click in a field and I start, so say it has 5, or these are the numbers here, but I'm not paying attention. I've handed my gun to my 5-year-old, loaded, not good, and he puts his finger on the trigger and starts pulling the trigger. Okay, if you're likely to do that, then what you need to do is make sure that these fields are set while in browse mode. So I'm going to select like these two. Let's just pretend like the only two fields we care about are these two right here. I'm going to come over to the area over here on the right. I'm in layout mode. I'm going to data, the right pane, right panel. So left pane, right pane, then the right panel of the right pane is the data. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say allow field entry in browse mode. You turn that off. Okay. So now if I want to find, I can still find in here, type something in here, find it. But if I'm in browse mode, I can't click in here. And you're like, well, that sucks. Well, then what you have to do is you have to build a little button over here that says something like, say I need a pop over button. Here we go. So I'm going to build a pop over window right here. I'm just going to say, I'm going to call this edit. Okay, and I'm doing this for you in real time, so hopefully no one gets too excited at me. And I'm going to, just for fun, I'm going to get rid of these buttons here. Get rid of them. I'm going to move this edit button up. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these two fields here. I'm going to copy Command C. I'm going to paste them. Oop. Why don't we just make this a little bigger, like this? How about that? Then I'm going to say paste. Ugh. Okay, that's making a mess. So these two are in there. And then I'm going to grab these two here and put them in there. And so now, but then these two right here, I set them to browse mode. So what we've done is we've implemented a safety on a gun. I don't know what else to call it, right? So I click on this. The safety switch is enabled. I can't pull the trigger. Turn the safety off. Click. Now you can click in there and pull the trigger. Make sense? Right? So do you want to do that? It's up to you if you think that's important. If it's important to you and your organization, that's the way you do it. But FileMaker fundamentally assumes that if you click into a field, you're serious and you want to do that you didn't hand your gun to some other 5-year-old. No bueno. Okay.
More likely the cat runs across the keyboard as a comment from Lonnie.
Well, Lonnie, then you got to decide if you are going to, ban your cat from your house, or you're going to not leave that window open, or you're going to set a safety like that, right? I mean, there's some other tricks you could do to set the record to not edit and then only edit if you're on an edit screen. But if I come over here and then I'm like, oh, God, I need a drink, right? So I'm over here having a drink. And then Claris pops her head over here and starts going face down on my keyboard, deleting stuff, while I'm over here not even paying attention, right? So you're asking me about human intervention and human behavior. It's good to think about these things. If you give a database to a user, they're going to find a way of breaking it for you. They're going to find a bizarre way to blow it into tiny little bits in a way that you never even conceived of, right? In our CRM, we don't run around with a bunch of safeties on it because if I put a bunch of safeties in it and then I try to train people, some people barely understand the relational diagram and TOs and anchor buoying stuff. If I add another level of complexity to it, like a lot of times you see Nick do stuff like, well, it's here, but you could only edit it in a certain screen or only do a find in a certain screen. I kind of want to trust people. Say, keep your paws off the bang switch until you're ready to go. That makes sense? You ever heard that term? Keep your paws off the bang switch. Keep your paws off the field and out of the field until you're ready to make an edit. I don't know what to tell you, but it's flexible enough. You saw me do it. That was the fix. So there you go. Next question. All right, transactions. Actually, we were talking about transactions up here. Does FileMaker have the equivalent to SQL transaction, either commit all records or none? Okay. So this is so funny you brought this up. In the current version of FileMaker Pro 19.5.1, specific managing like a transaction, like we're going to do a bunch of edits, and then when we're all done with all these edits, then we're going to do a command to do a commit that will push them all at one time, so it's like a transaction. Up until this moment in time, let's warp ahead, say 60 days in the future. That's a guess. So say from 6/8, so end of August 2022, all the way back to the dawn of FileMaker time, which is 1988 or something. To do a transaction was a hack. In a couple months, whenever they come out with FileMaker 19.6, which they've already announced, it's not a secret. They even mentioned in the May 6th live webinar that they were adding a transaction feature to 19.6. They're adding this into the product. It allows you to, I think, pop a window. I don't know if it's a special, I haven't played with it yet, but pop a window or something. You do a bunch of, and then at the end of that, when you run a commit, it actually completely saves it all the way to the server. So any things in the middle that might, like flipping records and stuff and doing edits to different records, which would normally implement little commits along the way, none of that's committed. So it's a complete kind of commit or not kind of deal. We will have training on that when that comes up. That is actually coming to the platform, and it's not a secret. That was announced May 6th. They haven't provided any details on it. I can't really provide too many details on it because I'm not authorized to do that, but it's safe to say that's coming in. So yeah, so far all your questions are, yes, it's robust. Don't be stupid. Auto commit. If you want a safety switch on your gun, put a safety switch on your gun. Okay. 3, transactions, doing it in like a complete cohesive commit or rollback kind of transactions. Yes. I think once they're committed, you can't roll them back, but that kind of idea where it waits and then when you're all done, you say go and it does it. Okay.
What about using layout setup to general to unchecking save changes automatically instead? Question mark.
You can do that, but all it does is it's like, I don't know. It's like plugging the toilet, right? I don't know what to tell you. I got all these analogies and none of them the best, right? So I don't know. You invite a sumo wrestler from Japan over to your house. He has 5 really big meals and he visits your bathroom. It may not work after he's done, right? So that's what That all it does is throw a dialog box all the time, right? You sure you want to save? Do you want to save? Are you sure you want to save? You really, really sure you want to save? You save, you save, you save, you save, save. So if I'm editing through a database, I'm going to spend half my time trying to clear that dialog. You should use these built-in features until you get to a point where you want to scream. Okay. So if you have a built-in feature where it's going to throw a dialog and say, "Are you sure you want to save?" Then fine, feel free to do that. Like Christian Olson, who's one of our senior engineers, loves it when he makes a edit to layout and then he does some stuff and then he goes to browse mode, right? And he goes, are you sure you want to save the changes? In my case, I've worked with FileMaker for so many years that I assume that if I make all these changes and I go to browse mode, I don't want it to ask me. I'm busy. I'm not a very smart person. I have very limited mental capabilities, and I don't need to be distracted while I'm focused on my stuff. Right? Does that make sense? So for me, I don't want additional dialogues. Are you sure? That's just me. It's personal. You can do it whatever way you want to do it. Okay. See, for me, if I don't see it and it's not right, yeah, I want to save the change. Oh, I don't like it. Command Z, undo it, undo it, undo it, undo it. I've already got an unwind path, right? Are you sure you want to save the change? Because if you don't want to save the change, you can still accept the change to come back later and do a command on Z, assuming you don't crash FileMaker. So there's a bunch of unz's. I just did a whole bunch. Now it's back the way it was, but when the TV show started. I thought this was only for layout savings in browse mode, not browse mode for records. Well, there's definitely layout mode. I don't know if there's one for browse mode or not. Once again, I turn these off automatically, Peter. So for me, it's like, eh. So FileMaker, what do you say? FileMaker layout setup. Yeah, well, that's on layout mode, right? So the layout setup is layout mode. Because if it was layout changes, it should say save layout changes automatically, right? That would imply browse mode. Once again, I turn these off. I hate these. So you're asking me about checkboxes I don't use. Show field frames, delineate fields. That one's kind of handy sometimes. Show current record indicator in list view. That's that little thing on the side. Enable quick find. Nick loves quick find. I hate quick find. Whenever I use it, it's very slow. Form view, list view. Yeah, I think that is, yeah, maybe if I go to, so that's layout setup. If I go to preferences over in FileMaker, here you go. So this is weird. So if you want to, if you want the layout changes to be saved automatically, there's this checkbox right here. They should be together, right? Once again, right? Claris. It's like here's Claris, right? And I'm like, some like Hollywood movie where they're slapping the other person. Like, what are you thinking, Claris, by having two nearly identical settings spread across the file? They should be right next to each other, right? Am I the only one that thinks that? Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's keep the violence to a minimum. Beating a puppet is different. Clarice. But yeah, you get the idea. It's so frustrating because all of you have great questions and I'm left going, well, these are checkboxes I don't use that often, and where are they? And so the layout one is not in the layout setup. The browse one is in layout setup, and the layout one is in preferences.
Oh, we have a question from Michelle Gravel. How important is the FMS helper log file?
If you're never have any problems with your server, pretty worthless. But if you have a crash and you don't know why it crashed, or somehow the backups aren't working, or you hire like one of my server people to help you, then the log files are super valuable. They're like gold. They tell you it's literally the evidence of the crime, like fingerprints or footprints where the bad guys left the tracks in the ground, and then there's blood. These are the tracks on the ground right next to the blood is what these are. In fact, frequently when you're triaging a crash or something, the log file is the most important thing you have. So I wouldn't get rid of them, but also like the one on my server, my personal server, I would never look at it unless it started blowing up or bizarre things were happening, right? Lonnie says another unrelated, crosstab's more advanced, Elliot. Unfortunately, it's not something easily done. We've done videos on crosstab if we want to. We've done pivot tables a couple different times on the live stream, and it's definitely in our paid training too. Yeah, it's in the paid training. Just do a search for PIVOT is the other term for that pivot table. So it's, for those of you wondering about stuff like we covered reporting and stuff, and you have a list view, and we had sub summaries, and everything is kind of vertical down the page. Imagine it went sideways, right? That's all it is a 9-degree pivot, and you move everything sideways, right? FileMaker fundamentally doesn't just do that out of the blue. Yeah, here we go. Here's the pivot tables and things like that. Reminder that if you like the training, right? A lot of you have purchased the training. We greatly appreciate it. If you like the training, you want to support the channel, even if you're getting mostly all free stuff here, feel free to go to fmtraining.tv over here to visit this website right here. And at the top, you see live trainings, our upcoming broadcast schedule. This is live FileMaker data, really cool. We have individual courses. We don't sell them anymore individually. There's just we've created too many courses over the years, and there's more in production. So what we do is we sell a bundle. This allows you to get everything we have. We highly recommend this bundle right here. If you could find a discount for it, or you want a deal for 2 people for a year, or 1 person for 2 years, you can email us at support@RC Consulting. But if you come over here, you can check this out. You can go to here and use a credit card. And purchase that. It's a good training. So there was the final question about global variables on a layout. Is there a way to display a value stored in a global variable on the layout? The answer for Lonnie. So we've covered this if you go to our training, we spent some time. If I go to fmtrain.tv, I go to the 30-day training, I show past videos. We do have a section in here on variables. I don't know if it's, yeah, global and local variables, day 6 is right here. If you watch this training, I'll cover that. To answer Lonnie's question quickly and efficiently, here is a FileMaker file right here. If I want to see any global or local variables, a local variable that is displayed would indicate there's a script that's paused. A running script has been paused is the only time you could see a local variable. You go to FileMaker Pro. You go to Tools. Now, if you don't see Tools, let me cover this one more time. If you don't see it, you must see the Tools menu. If you don't see Tools, you're going to go to FileMaker Pro, Preferences. You're going to turn on the Advanced Tools right here. See this? You have to restart FileMaker. Don't close the file, reopen the file. Won't work. You have to quit FileMaker entirely. Follow the instructions. Quit it entirely. Okay. When you quit it and then you reopen it back up, the Tools menu will magically be displayed. You go to Tools, you say Data Viewer. If I say Data Viewer and you go to the Current tab right here, you can see all the global variables that have been defined and their current values right here. And if you want to change the value, you can even come in here and change it to Peter Keynes. And now I've changed it. So the Data Viewer allows you to view the data, to also to change it. Okay. I want all of you to be successful. The FileMaker platform is really quite exceptional. It's really good. I know that we give them grief about it. And the stuff I give them grief about are obviously stupid things that could be fixed that are easy, right? Complicated, hard to solve problems I don't really give people grief about, because I'm the kind of guy, I'm never going to complain about dinner or the kitchen in my house. Say like wife cooks dinner. Just on general principle, it's not a good idea to complain, but I'm never willing to complain about something unless I'm willing to do it myself. I might complain about video training from someone else only because I'm willing to do it myself, and I do it myself. But if there's some like really hard problem that I'm not sure how to solve, that Claris has to solve, I'm not going to complain about it because I don't have any better idea how to solve it. The stuff we complain about are obviously felony stupid. It's literally like driving drunk down the road blindfolded with no seatbelt on for 100 miles on the freeway in California. You're going to get busted, okay? Period, end of story. Obvious things, but the tool is really exceptional. It's fantastic. Apple owns Claris. Apple uses a ton of this internally. If you visit an Apple store, the Apple store, how the stuff is laid out and how that Apple store was built is entirely managed by FileMaker. I know because my team built the software for it. Okay. And so Apple uses it for all sorts of operational things. They use it because it's such a great tool. You folks know that because it's a great tool. You are some of the most cutting edge people helping businesses make use of technology. It's not about the latest artificial intelligence. It's about bringing sanity and efficiency to your basic everyday business is what we do. We're training you to do that. You go do it. I'm just training you, answering your questions so you can do it better. That's all it is. All right, cool. I appreciate everyone. If there's another unrelated question, we will pick it up and swing on it tomorrow. I appreciate everyone's contributions, and we'll catch you tomorrow.